You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call, and I'm in the Cybertruck at the Western Hunt Expo. This is my studio, Justin.
It's incredible.
This is my expo studio, and I'm in here with Justin from Foundation for Wildlife Management, and we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation and what you do. We've done it before, but we're going to do a little. We're going to revisit the topic a little bit and talk a little bit about wolves. So, Justin, real quick introduction, who you are, and then let's get into some topics about wolf hunting.
Sure, you bet. So my name is Justin Webb, and I'm blessed to serve as the executive director for the Foundation for Wildlife Management. Grew up in the backcountry of North Idaho, actually grew up off the grid, and I've always had a huge passion for the outdoors and backcountry hunting, mule deer and elk specifically. And back in the, 2007, 2008, 2009, we started recognizing a huge influx of wolf density where I hunted elk and mule deer in the backcountry, and seeing negative implications from overabundance of wolves. There was a group of backcountry elk hunters from Sandpoint, Idaho, that come up with an idea, a way to try to give back and help out. You know, there's everybody seems to recognize the wolf problem. You can't hunt in an area where there's wolves without seeing the change.
Lampers and I went up to Alberta and did some hunting for wolves up there, which was pretty wild. And we made that film Blood in the Snow, and it's trending toward 1 million views.
It was a great film.
Thank you.
I loved it. Good job.
But I wanted people to understand, without saying it out loud, that, you know, there's a place for hunting wolves, and the impact of them is devastating. It's like, I appreciate wolves and I don't want them gone, but there's a limited resource out there for all of us, including the wolves. So if you just never manage them, in the small world we live in today, you just lose so much resource to the wolf that they'll take it all. Do you want to win a brand new Prime bow, fully set up by Jeremiah Plyer at the Wild Arrow Archery Shop? We're going to fly some lucky person here to Salt Lake City, bring you into the bow shop, have Jeremiah deck you out. You'll get the whole kit. You get a $5,000 gear package to go with it. All you got to do to be entered to win is buy a brand new t-shirt. We have some cool designs that we partnered with Black Flag on. I got a cool ram head shirt in honor of this new film that we just put out. We've got a pirate-themed one, Never Surrender, in a collab with Black Flag and Gritty. And we have another one, Dead Bulls Tell No Tales. In order to win, you just go to Black Flag, that's BLKFLG.com/gritty. Check out the new t-shirt designs. Buy a tee by itself for some entries to win, or buy a t-shirt in a bundle deal with a brand new tub of Black Flag Revenge Energy and Focus drink. You'll get more entries with the bundle, but if you just want to buy a t-shirt by itself, you can do that as well, or some Revenge by itself. I think the t-shirts are really cool, but I think you'll appreciate Black Flag's new Energy and Focus drinks. There's lots of servings in each container, so it's a great value, and you're going to feel the energy and focus boost. Go to Black Flag, that's BLKFLG.com/gritty. Let's get back to the show.
Absolutely. One of the things that I don't think people really think through when folks are talking about the wolf topic, it all comes down, for me, it all comes down to just basic biology and the concept that every living thing has to have a set amount of food, water, shelter, and space in order to thrive, right?
Amen.
So scientists call that group of requirements suitable habitat. And in the wolf topic, you know, they brought these wolves down from Canada, and they had a recovery goal of 300 total animals, with 100 in each of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. They met that goal in the year 2000, and it took unfortunately, 9 years of litigation for the states to finally get management authority of wolves. Well, back to that basic concept that you have to have a set amount of food, water, shelter, and space for every living species to be able to thrive. There was 30 years of data that was compiled by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that went into the delisting rule in 2009, and they stated at that time that there's enough suitable habitat that we should be managing for more than 1,100 wolves spanning the NRM DPS, the Northern Rocky Mountain Distinct Population Segment Area, which is, for those that don't know, it encompasses all of Montana, all of Idaho, all of Wyoming, the eastern 1/3 of both Oregon and Washington, and a small section of Utah. They stated that Montana should manage for 400 wolves, Idaho for 500 wolves, and 200 to 300 in Wyoming. That's based on how much suitable habitat is available to them. But when they delisted them in 2009, that population in that 9 years of litigation had exploded and become 1,500 wolves in an area with only suitable habitat for 1,100. And so they stated at that time that if they maintained the 1,500 that we had then, that would slowly deplete their own prey base and cause chronic livestock depredation. And fast forward to today, where within the NRM DPS, we have 3 times that objective. We've been struggling for numbers of years to reduce wolf numbers, specifically in Idaho and also in Montana. And there's only so much space for wolves to live without forcing wolves to live where they don't belong, where they're going to make enemies of the sportsman community and of the ranching community. And that's what's come to fruition. When you look at the actual map of Idaho that shows units that are below elk management objectives and the chronic livestock depredation zones, it spans the majority of our state.
Yeah.
Everything that they stated would come true has come to fruition.
We did a podcast. We did 2 podcasts a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, on wolves. One, we talked about the economic impact on farmers, ranchers in Idaho. We did a little data digging and found some information and stuff, and we presented it because I wanted people to understand that the cost of having wolves on the landscape to ranchers is no joke, and that it's death by 1,000 cuts, because when wolves are there, the cattle lose weight. When the wolves are there, there's a certain portion that get killed that they don't get reimbursed for, because the work to get reimbursed is a bit extreme.
Sure.
It's like something like they got reimbursed for 25 out of 100 that get lost. I mean, that's terrible. You're losing a certain amount of money for each of those losses. Then you can't run cattle dogs anymore. Now they got to run dudes on horseback. Now you're paying for all these different cowboys to come out there and help you round stuff up. And then it's just more and more. And then they don't go out and graze on the prime grazing areas. They hold up on these spots where they are more safe against wolves, which then the cattle graze that all down to nothing. They don't have high conception rates. You have unused prime grazing lands. And pretty soon, like, small ranchers not making the money, doesn't have massive margins. And so some big corporate entity rolls in and says, I'll buy up your cattle ranch, who's owned by, I don't know, Bill Gates. And the next thing you know, there's 100 cattle ranches. They've all been consolidated into one big, or 2 or 3 massive ranchers who own everything. And it's a transfer of wealth from the middle class and from, family ranchers from generationally out there that have now lost everything. So wolves it just feels like the lack of management for them is nefarious in many ways. And it feels dirty to me, and it bothers me. And then you have, on the flip side, we talked about their impact on actual licenses and hunting opportunity, and how that impacts the financial situation of the state from a big game perspective. And also, when the millions of pounds of venison taken in the form of elk and deer each year, and all the meat there is now 50% less harvest rates or 60% less harvest rate, that has to be replaced by some other source. Is it more cattle somewhere else? Is it feedlots? Is it monocultural crops of just soybeans for far as the eye can see? Like all of that comes at a cost. And all I wanted our audience to realize is if you decide that wolves are just too precious to kill or to hunt, then you also decide all these cascading costs that come with it. And all I want you to understand is if you realize that cost, to own it and go, yeah, now that I know what the real cost is, yeah, I don't want it anymore. I'm willing to see them taken. So I tried to present that, and I've tried to do that before, but you know what I'm finding, Justin, what works the best?
What's that?
Just show wolves murdering things. and everyone's like, I can see a few get shot. I'm okay with that. Like,
yeah.
So humans can boil down into, I wish it was more intellectual and logical, but when I did Blood in the Snow, I was showing the hunt, but I was like, people won't understand this if they don't understand the other half of this, which they're shielded from. And so in that movie I showed, before you even saw the hunt happen, at the outset, you saw wolves eating the ass out of an elk, and you saw animals still alive being tortured and tormented by groups of wolves. And people's hearts went out to the prey animals in a way that then they were like, yeah, I don't have as much compassion as I did before. But I guarantee you, if I didn't include that and I just showed to shoot wolves, they'd go, you guys are so mean.
Yep.
And you know how many negative comments I got for that film? Oh, that's like 0.001%. I've done wolf hunts before. It's like a huge ratio of negativity. But by making this film the way that I did, it was like they didn't have a leg to stand on. They just felt it in their gut. I didn't want to say why you should be able to hunt wolves either. I wanted you to just feel it inside. It makes sense.
Make up your own mind based on the information that you're presented with. There's so much of that. You know, there's the whole Yellowstone National Park trophic cascade mentality that gets portrayed by the media.
They did a great job with that propaganda piece.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they sold a lot of lies in a hurry. So just what you're saying, though, I mean, there's a huge trophic cascade effect that's the flip side of all that the public doesn't know about. Nobody talks about the fact that the Selkirk caribou herd in Idaho is now extinct. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about the fact that a moose population that was already struggling has absolutely plummeted in some of our units due to wolf predation. Nobody talks about the fact that a lion that used to kill a deer a week and camp on it all week and feed on that deer now has to kill 4 or 5 times before he gets to eat because the wolves chase him off of it. Yeah. Nobody talks about the black bears that are getting dug out of their dens and strung out by wolves during the winter months while they're hibernating. There's a lot of impacts. Nobody talks about the fact that we spent the last 100 years using the North American model to try to maximize, our habitat, and we've built all of this winter range habitat for our elk as an example. Well, now similar to cattle, the elk conception rates drop because every time a bull bugles, the wolf packs run in on them, and so they're being pressured constantly while they're breeding. Then on top of that, you've got pregnant cows being run around in deep snow all winter long, then being forced off of all of the this beautiful, amazing winter range habitat that's been built by Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and other conservation organizations. So now your elk have to make it through the winter on a much lesser habitat than what they're
it's either
accustomed to.
risk the nutrition I need or die, of weakness, but if you gamble that way, you might get eaten by a wolf. It's like it's the elk are put in such a bind.
You bet. And now a lot of those elk herds, because of that fact, so
they're in cities.
They are. They're moving into the croplands, and they don't want to leave. They know that if they take their calves back up the hill, they're going to lose the calf. Yep. So those calves now don't know they're supposed to live on the mountain, and therefore there's generations of elk that have never left the valley floor.
Yeah, yeah. They're in parks, and they're like that in Evergreen. Colorado, where I lived, and it was kind of cool. But those elk, they're in the schoolyard, they're behind the shopping store, they're at your house, and they just roll through the town. And up here where I'm at in Cache Valley, they feed the elk way at the top because they all in an effort to try to keep them from becoming city elk. And so they spend the whole time like, because they had a decision to make, if they didn't do that, then the elk will go there next. And so by providing that source, they don't bother coming in, and then they don't do what do they call it, epigenetics, where the elk, if they are born and raised in that city, then they'll pass that born and raised in the city kind of knowledge or tolerance to their offspring. But if they can keep them up there, they're always still afraid of the city life, and they'll keep that distance. They only move down out of desperateness, and then they figure out, well, we're not getting hunted, so this is okay, Yeah. So they try to reroute them and teach them. Not that I think feeding them is great either, but all the time. But there's a lot that goes into game management, and to me, we should be maximizing the resource, and that includes harvesting wolves any way we can. And man, where you guys come in, basically, the states were having difficulty or just were not acting on the management of wolves. And for you can come in and say, we're a foundation that will help cover the costs of hunters who are willing to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people also don't realize how expensive it is to remove problem wolves. And so, for numbers of years, the state has contracted at over $9,000 per wolf removed when we have these conflicts, whether it's livestock conflict or we have overpredation happening on our elk populations and things. The average expense per wolf removed is over $9,000.
Wow.
The Foundation for Wildlife Management has removed more than 2,600 wolves at an average expense of just over $900 a piece.
When you think about as a hunter, you're a guy that's going to leave from work a little bit, spend a week trying to kill wolves. That's a week he could be getting meat for his freezer with an elk or some other tag. It's like there's also, at least you get 1,000 pounds of meat over the course of a hunting season, maybe, between all the hunts you can go on. If you use that time for a wolf, you get some fur.
Right.
You're not eating it.
It's hard to feed your kids that.
It doesn't have the same allure. So, but if there is some way to offset that, so tell us about what it is. How do people get involved with the Foundation for Wildlife Management, and what's the benefit?
So there's a huge benefit for a person that, first let's talk a little bit about hunter success rates. That's one of the things that I also think, I hear all the time, well, just open a season and that's going to solve the problem. Hunter success rates are less than 1/4%
on wolves.
On wolves. A few years back, I did a bunch of just research and crunching numbers, and 74,041 wolf tags were sold in 21 between Idaho and Montana. 74,041 tags sold. 411 people actually got a wolf. Only 32 guys took more than 2 wolves.
That's ridiculous.
The success rate on wolves is extremely low because they travel so far so quickly that it's really difficult to get close to them. And people don't realize that. We've got an average pack of 6 that's running a 3 to 5 week cycle a lot of the times through a 250 square mile home range. And that doesn't account for the, extensive travel that happens during the breeding season. So,
wow.
So hunter success rate is extremely low. That being said, if a guy's trapping, oftentimes the trapping community can see as high as 30% success rate. So most targeted wolf harvest actually comes
from the trapping
community. Yeah. Well, if you got a full-time job, you can't run a wolf trap line. It's extremely difficult to do. By law, you have to be at every trap set every 72 hours in the state of Idaho, every 48 hours in the state of Montana. And so therefore, it makes it extremely difficult to participate in controlling wolf overabundance where they're having negative impacts. If you're that guy and you've got a full-time job, you've got kids in school, you've got church on Sundays, you've got commitments otherwise, it's extremely difficult. Your $40 a year membership to the Foundation for Wildlife Management is a way that you can give back. It's a way that you can actually help resolve the problem. And how that works is a $40 a year membership for a person who is hunting or trapping wolves. That $40 a year entitles you to be reimbursed for your expenses up to right now, it's currently $2,000 and all units that don't meet elk management objectives in the state of Idaho, as well as the chronic livestock depredation zones. So the way that we have removed 2,600 wolves is by providing incentive to encourage sportsmen to get back out and target wolves when they're done deer and elk hunting. Or maybe it's the guy that's come out from back east and he's on a trophy elk hunt and it's the only time he's ever going to get to hunt elk in his life, and he's moving in on elk that are talking and the wolves beat him to it. It's an encouragement to get him to pull the trigger when that wolf hits his crosshairs rather than waiting to take his trophy elk. And that's what helps keep elk on the landscape, hopefully for the next generation to get to enjoy the same experiences that you and I have been blessed with in the backcountry.
It's been effective.
It has. It really has. There's some areas where I have physically watched the cow-calf ratios bounce back. We've got some units where moose are finally starting to make a little bit of a comeback. The program works. We funded 75% of Idaho's wolf harvest the last several years, more than 50% of the wolf harvest in Montana, and we've only been in Montana for a couple of seasons.
So there you have it, folks. I think I'd like everyone to contribute, become an annual member, $40 a year, and whether you ever get out to hunt wolves or not, because if you do love the elk and the deer and all the other types of hunting that we're doing out in these areas where these wolves are, it just empowers the foundation to keep moving the needle in a positive direction with management of these wolves, so that we all have ample resources out there for hunting. If the states are doing some management, but really, hunters got to take it up themselves. They really got to pick it up and do it. Can't rely on the government.
Well, one of the things that I've always really fallen back on, and a lot of people don't realize this, but Section 23 of the Idaho Constitution clearly states that sportsmen shall be the preferred means of managing our wildlife. And therefore, I mean, as a sportsman myself and a passionate backcountry hunter, I feel the responsibility lays in our lap. There's no better mechanism than using the volunteer efforts of sportsmen who are so passionate about keeping elk on the landscape in healthy numbers, to be able to reduce an out of control population. I mean, wolf overabundance is extremely negatively impactful in a lot of areas. A lot of people will mistake my presentation or the fact that I promote wolf harvest through our program to mean that I hate wolves. And that also couldn't be further from the truth. Wolves are the most amazing animal I've ever been around, and anybody who spends any time pursuing them will quickly learn to have a high level of respect for them, because they really are an amazing critter.
I mean, think about it. I mean, your dog. Well, I mean, those of us that are dog lovers or have had dogs, they're incredible. The intelligence, they're band's best friend, they say, Yeah. And you're basically dealing with the wild, undomesticated version of that. But there's those ties. Much respect, man, for what canines can do. Much respect. And so I'm with you. I love them. And I also want to manage them because I love the elk and the deer too.
You bet. It really comes back to, the initial part of the conversation of food, water, shelter, and space. And, I actually had the opportunity to sit down with one of our biggest oppositions, and we had lunch, and I started the conversation out just stating the simple fact. I said, I bet we have way more in common than what we disagree on. And we started talking about that, the love of wildlife, love of the backcountry, hiking high mountain lakes, that sort of thing, the experiences that we've had in life. And we got along great right up until the point that I asked him, knowing that we only have a set amount of food, water, shelter, and space for wolves, and knowing that we're already at double that, meaning wolves are making enemies of themselves across the landscape, I asked how many is enough. And what is the reason? That he wanted wolves to be in such overabundance that they're persecuted by sportsmen, hated by the ranching community, suffering at their own hands. The number one killer of wolves in many instances is other wolves, because they're constantly fighting over territory. They don't tolerate one another.
Yeah.
So when they're in overabundance, the biggest argument from people who don't want wolves managed is regularly nature will balance itself, but they don't understand that for that to happen, we've spent 100 years building this prey base and this abundance of wildlife that we all enjoy. For that to happen, the predator population outgrows the prey base, collapses it. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens to all those predators at that point? They all die from disease and starvation.
Yeah.
Right?
That whole equilibrium myth, really is appealing to the nature lovers, the sort of the non-hunting nature lover, anti-hunting nature lover, because it's a utopian idea. But back to what I was saying earlier, let's say it's true. Yeah, they'll achieve some level of equilibrium. The problem with that is that level of equilibrium drops let's say, whatever that level is, at times it could drop the elk harvest rates 50, 70, 80%. And so to me, it's like, okay, great. You reached equilibrium. Now a unit where we issued 300 tags, now we issue 75. Okay. Well, where's that revenue go? Like that was that we did have, it's gone.
Where did it come from? Yeah.
And then all that meat that humans were consuming,
mm-hmm.
Now they got to go get it, increased ranch land, increased imports from New Zealand, China. Like, where are you getting? It comes with a price tag. And that level, that whole just let the wolves go on unchecked, it takes away all that opportunity for states to make income off of tag sales and for us to consume meat in a more natural way. And it just comes at all those costs.
Well, it also comes at the cost of not having the wildlife abundance to enjoy. I absolutely, outside of hunting season, I love going and just glassing elk and watching them calve in the springtime.
Yeah.
And just the abundance of wildlife that we've become accustomed to having disappears. I firmly believe that nature will balance itself. What happens, however, is that this huge abundance of wildlife that we're accustomed to basically disappears, and you end up with this ebb and flow of prey and predator base that's at such a lower level that I don't think you could even have tag sales.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that. So anyone who has hunted Mexico for Coues deer has seen that. Like, there's no deer. If you contrast Mexico to Arizona, like, we're going on a stalk every hour for Coues deer in Arizona at times. We're lucky if we go a full day and see more than 2-3 bucks in these areas. There's cats everywhere. They're just, that's the equilibrium. Nothing. You experience it too when you go to the north. When you go up north, and there's really not a lot of predator management. It's just kind of equilibrium up there. And like, what is Alaska? The last great frontier. It's kind of the El Natural kind of area to an extent. There's no animals. Do you realize, like, when you go up there, people are shocked when they go there for the first time and they see nothing. They see vast landscapes and not a single animal. You don't get that lower 48. All right, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you are in need of a taxidermist, check out our friend Jeremy over at Judkins Custom Taxidermy. He does incredible work. He's got the cleanest taxidermy shop I've ever seen. And when you use the code GRITTY, Jeremy is going to expedite your project by 2 to 3 months. And he already has an excellent turnaround time. So check it out. Go to Judkins Custom Taxidermy. Let him know Brian Call at Gritty sent you. Get your mount expedited. Now let's get back to the show.
No, because we manage our predators.
Yeah. You don't get that in Arizona because they've managed things. So there's this huge abundance of deer. You go to Mexico. I was like, I'm going to take my bow and I'm going to bow hunt Mexico. If you bow hunt Mexico, you're not getting a Coues deer. You might see 3 coos deer the whole like 10 days you're there. And to get on a stock, you need stocks with a bow. You need chances.
Yeah.
When you see like, oh, I saw 2 bucks the whole time in like 6 days, you got to relocate them and get in bow range. There's no hunt to be had like that. Ryan laughed at me. He's like, you're going to need a gun. You're only going to see 1 or 2. They'll be giant, but you're only going to see a few. And that was kind of an eye opener for me. Equilibrium means, like you kind of just said, there's nothing for humans to harvest anymore.
Sure. Because that's the basics of state management is the hunting community takes the surplus, right? I mean,
yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And then like Joe Rogan had Cliff Gray on his show talking about the trophic cascade and so forth. And he was kind of debunking it. And he was like, look, they've talked about how the only way they could bring back the willows and the this and the that and the plants and the health was to introduce wolves to knock down the elk population. And as Cliff stated, that's not true. They never allowed hunters to hunt.
Correct.
They never let the surplus be taken by hunters.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the park got overrun with an unhunted elk population. And then the excuse was, look at how much the wolves have improved it. It's like, well, the humans could have done that too. And you could still do like a balance if you allowed some level of harvest by human instead of just feeding it to wolves or whatever else.
Some of that I really wish that I could get to be a part of those conversations as well, because there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize. Like, they talked about how the wolves brought the beavers back. BS, right. The beaver transplant program brought the beavers back. They talked about how woody vegetation strengthened the riverbanks. There's a reason we don't allow woody vegetation to grow on a river dike. It's because it erodes the river dike. Water seeps up woody vegetation root systems. There's so much misinformation in those videos about trophic cascade. It's laughable to an individual who really knows the details and the intricacies of the information that they talk about in there.
And I like what Cliff was saying. He's like, they act like wolves are some magic fix-all. Oh, now we're in utopia because it's propaganda.
Yeah, it suits their narrative.
Do you feel like we're kind of winning a little more on that?
So I've got to tell you, public acceptance of wolf management as wolf abundance has become more widespread, I think is growing, in huge leaps and bounds. And over the previous 10 years, the Foundation for Wildlife Management has spent that time uniting our sportsman's voice, tying that into our ag industry leadership, taking that to our Fish and Game Commission, and fighting tooth and nail, trying to get the tools, the seasons, the tag numbers, the liberal wolf harvestability for sportsmen so that we could productively control their numbers. And we finally, this last 2 or 3 years, had started to reduce wolf numbers. We were at the mid 1500s for the state of Idaho for 10 years probably. And we finally had that starting to tip the scale, dropping down into the mid 1100s. And this last year, we got hit with this federal lawsuit saying that because the odds of take of a grizzly bear are not zero, that we shall not trap outside of December 1 to the end of February. Unfortunately, at this given time...
That's ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
It's just such lawfare.
It is. So nobody stopped to ask the question, have you ever caught a grizzly bear? I personally, when I testified on that hearing, I personally had the Fish and Game Department pull my trap log. I had 46,000 logged trap nights in grizzly bear habitat, in grizzly bear country, with 0 incident.
Yeah, and also, that is grizzly, the whole nother topic. Like, why are we pretending like these things are almost extinct?
Oh, they've been at double the recovery goals for 10 years.
You know what I like, though? One of the things that I'm trying to do with Gritty is socialize people to wolf hunting. Just make it so commonplace a little bit. Like, showcase it more without apology. And also showcase, like, why we like it, why it's special, but also, show people I just educate them, but also get them just used to the idea. I remember Joe Rogan mentioned Ryan. He said, "Yeah, Lamper is he's a well-spoken guy, and I watched him shoot a wolf, so it must be legal." His guest and him are debating whether he's like, "No, it has to be legal because I saw a guy do it. It was on YouTube, and it's this guy, and interesting. So it's legal. It's legal. You could shoot wolves. You can? I'm pretty sure. I mean, you must be able to. This was like a year ago,
Wow.
or maybe a little more, but still, I talked to Ryan. I'm like, man, if people are under the perception, like a Rogan who's fairly engaged, that wolf hunting is semi illegal or is at that stage where they're endangered, we have to do a way better job of socializing people, like making it a normal thing. And a lot of channels and folks have shied away from that because of the drama and stuff that could come with it. But
Sure.
my experience has been more and more acceptance as a result. I used to get, in 2007, I remember putting stuff up on the public for bear hunts, and ever since. And now black bear hunting is widely accepted,
Sure.
widely seen as a viable hunt, totally okay. But I was there in the early 2000s. I was there 2010, 11, 12. They had similar attitudes about black bear in the wider public as they do about wolves kind of today. But it's changing. And I think as long as we as hunters get out and tell the story well, socialize people to like wolf hunting in general, that same sentiment that negativity they had toward bear hunting, you just shouldn't do it. They become much more aware and they understand the subject much more. And pretty soon it's understood and accepted. They may not like it. They don't want to see it, but they get it and they accept it.
One of the things I think that has happened over time is that people are still under this assumption and this belief system that's being portrayed by the media that if you hunt wolves, that they go extinct. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. People think that we hunted and trapped them to extinction, and that's not how that transpired. Wolves were extirpated from the landscape with poison, and that's nothing that anybody wants to see happen again. And so the hunting community, this is something everybody should know. Wolf abundance is such an issue that in the state of Idaho, you can hunt them year-round. You can shoot them at night with thermals. You can use electronic calls. There is no quota.
No restrictions.
You can buy as many tags as you want. Until this Grizzly lawsuit, we were trapping them from September through March. There's all of this abundance of opportunity for wolf harvest. And that abundance of wolf harvest, even with the trapping seasons that we had, barely started to reduce their numbers. Idaho has suitable habitat for 500 wolves, and we still have over 1,000 wolves documented.
I think we're headed in the right direction. I'm optimistic. I like some of that, but I don't think the battle ever ends, especially with culture. Got to keep fighting that culture, and then you guys are on the ground doing the practical work, and I love it. Folks, go check out Foundation for Wildlife Management. Where do they go?
So our website is the easiest place to get information, F4WM.org, Foundation for Wildlife Management, F4WM.org. And we've got a lot of new things coming, going on right now too. We actually just switched over to a brand new member management software, trying to keep up with the times. There's a lot of technology stuff that the hunting community, such as myself, is not up to date on all the time. So we've got a brand new website being built right now that's going to launch here this next week. We started some new programs too. Everybody wants a wolf. When we come to these trade shows and stuff, and everybody comes up and they see our soft mounts or they see the wolf pelts on the wall, and everybody gets so excited about it, and everybody wants a wolf. Well, kind of mimicking the Wild Sheep Foundation's Less Than One Club, we started a How Will I Get One Club, where if you've never harvested a wolf, you can join for $30. You get a free T-shirt that's pretty cool, a pretty nice T-shirt, and you get entered in a drawing to go on a wolf hunt. And we just gave one of those hunts away here this last week at the Sandpoint Banquet.
That's genius.
So
that's genius. That's great.
This year, you can join the How Will I Get One Club for $30, get a free T-shirt, and you're entered in a hunt with Mile High Outfitters. and you're going to fly in to the Frank Church, and you're going to go horseback into the backcountry where wolves have not been pressured and get to go hunt with those guys. So that's
super cool.
A new program that we have. We also have a Forever Giving program where if you make a commitment to give $25 a month for 12 months, we'll enter you in a drawing, and we're giving a firearm away. Nice firearms.
Nice.
One a month for 6 months straight. Just trying to, keep up with the times. Everybody has all these new ingenuity, different ways of engaging with the public. And so, just super excited to share some of that stuff. We printed our first magazine that we've ever done. We've been, the foundation was founded in 2011. We got our 501c3 in 2012, and we printed our first magazine this year. That was a huge hit, getting a lot of requests for that. We have some extra copies. If you'd like to request one of those, you can buy those through our website.
I didn't know you had a magazine.
Yeah. Oh, you got to check it out. It's a good one.
Okay.
It's a good one. I'll make sure to get you a copy before we leave the show so you can take a look. We're up to 11 different chapters, fundraiser banquets. We've got 10 of those chapters are putting on fundraising banquets. 70% of our funding that covers wolf harvest expense comes from the backs of our volunteers that are out there working hard putting banquets together. So
wow.
You could go to the website, click events, and there's a whole list of banquets that you could attend, constantly looking for, donations. Let's just say you're in the outdoor industry, you support wolf control, you support wolf management and what we do. We would love to be able to partner with you. As mentioned, we're up to 10 banquets now, and we're starting to get some pretty good partnerships. People that are really pushing the foundation and helping us out, helping us reach the community. The Wolfer Summit, this is something else that a lot of people could really benefit from. We have a Wolfer Summit this year, August 7th through the 10th. And what we're doing is we're bringing in our top producing wolfers from all over the country, to include Canada and Alaska. Last summer's event, we had one individual there that had taken more than 1,200 wolves himself. We had 4 guys that were all over 750 wolves under their belt to give 2-hour demonstrations for 3 solid days.
Wow.
I learned more at last summer's Wolfer Summit than I did in 5 years in the field.
That's cool.
So
that's empowering.
If you want to learn how to be successful targeting wolves, you need to be at our Wolfer Summit next summer in August. You can look that up on our website as well.
Justin, that's a lot of cool stuff going on. That's great ideas.
And we're working hard at it. The program is growing and expanding, and as people are starting to recognize the value of the program and what we've accomplished. Again, just going back to that, people sometimes will ask, well, do you really think what you're doing is making a difference? Man, I can't measure that, but I can tell you I don't want to see what it would look like with 2,600 more wolves on the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's having an impact. It's making a difference. We're growing. If this nationwide wolf delisting happens that people are talking about, we've got a lot of interest from Wisconsin and Minnesota. Long story short, the program's growing. We're doing some big things, and we'd love to have folks come get on board with us.
I love it. We'll keep spreading the good word. We have a few more wolf a little more wolf content we're going to share. We need to throw it into the film stuff, like a little bit of a little, especially some of this giveaway stuff, or the how for one. How will I get one? How will I get one? Because there's a ton of people that would love to be entered to win or part of that. I always find for my audience, especially if they kind of want to be supportive,
sure,
but that little extra, you could also win this thing if you do. It's just that little incentive. It just seems to help so much. So very cool. Well, thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate you. Folks, go check out F4WM and .com and get signed up and be part of this community. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know what you think about the show in the comments below. We'll try to get back to you on the YouTube section in the comments on this if you want to check that on the Gritty YouTube channel. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Stay gritty.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha.